Good evening, ghoulies and ghosties and long-leggedy beasties. This is Alex, coming at you from the underworld, and welcome back to another episode of... Before I get started, I would like to say Happy Valentine's Day, and if you don't have a Valentine this year, I hope that this video is enough to keep you company. Also, I would like to welcome back my husband, Kerry, which, as many of you know, he's the reason why I have a lot of technical difficulties on this channel, but he's also a returning guest because he and I had buddy read and reviewed the book Uzumaki by Junji Ito, and if you would like to watch that review, the link is available in the description section of this video, but as for now, let's welcome Kerry back and find out what else he's been reading.
Hello again, everyone. I'm Kerry, Alex's husband, the one that's usually off camera torturing him.
Well, thanks for coming back, and I'm glad we could do this buddy read together.
Yeah.
But what book are you reading now?
I'm reading Circe by Madeline Miller, and I really recommend it if you're a fan of drama and fantasy and Greek mythology.
So now that we're caught up to speed, it's time to get down to this weekend's book review, which this weekend we're reviewing the manga Tomie by Junji Ito. And truth be it, this book has some really good memories tied to it, because this is one of the many titles that Kerry and I bought when we were on our 2019 honeymoon. Also, one of our great friends by the name of Sayla Janelle had recommended this title to us.
So not only are we knocking out a buddy read and reviewing a requested book, we also felt this was the perfect book to review for Valentine's Day, especially since Tomie uses love and obsession as her weapons of choice.
Tomie by Junji Ito is told through a bystander lens where Tomie is the lead character. And even though we never receive any insight from Tomie's perspective, we're forced to piece together her mysterious life through the eyes of those who she has affected.
And what you need to know about Tomie is that she is a drop-dead gorgeous schoolgirl who is envied by almost all females, whereas all males fall head over heels for her charms. But once a male has become Tomie's loyal servant, their love for her becomes so intense that they are driven to mutilate her.
However, Tomie does not die from mutilation. Instead, all of her body parts, even down to her blood cells, multiply and regenerate to become new Tomies. From here, one Tomie becomes two, and so on and so forth, until there's a full army of her.
Meanwhile, as the Tomies destroy every life that they interact with, we're given a glimpse into just a few of the horrors that Tomie is truly capable of.
Around 1984, when Junji Ito worked as a dental assistant, he produced his debut manga called Tomie. Eventually, he decided that he would submit the original 30 pages of Tomie for consideration at the first Umezu Awards, which after submission, Tomie won honorable mention. Then in 1987, Tomie was serialized in the magazine called Monthly Halloween. The runtime of Tomie was from 1987 through 2000, where it influenced a television series as well as a movie franchise.
Fun facts. Here's a few things that inspired Junji Ito to write Tomie. In a Grape Japan interview that was conducted by Ben Kay, Ito explained his inspiration for Tomie was based on a classmate from junior high who died in a traffic accident. This tragedy caused Ito to feel awed by how his classmate, who was so full of life, was suddenly taken. Nonetheless, Ito had a strange feeling that his classmate would show up again. Since that tragedy, Ito wanted to express his feelings in a manga, and his emotions towards that circumstance is what inspired the character of Tomie. Also, to show the influence of Ito's iconic character, he previously noted that he has received fan mail from young girls who wish to be Tomie.
Now that we have that covered, it's time to move on to the spoilers section. And if you haven't read this book before, we're about to reveal some things that could ruin the experience for you. So if you wish to skip this segment, just scroll down to the comments, and you'll see that I have a pinned comment at the top. If you were to click on the timestamp within that comment, it will move you away from this section and bring you to the Thoughts chapter. Now, you only have 17 seconds to do this, so...
Ready, set, go!
Since everyone has had the opportunity to click away, we would like to talk about a few of our favorite moments, which the first one that comes to mind regards the ending of Littlefinger. Now, with this segment, we're introduced to a boy by the name of Hiroya who's bullied due to his appearance. And after he gets framed for the murder of Tomie, he has no other choice but to take refuge in a cave. Then he discovers that 4 of Tomie's fingers are inside of one of his pockets, so he takes those severed fingers and burns them. But about a month later, these zombified Tomies grow from the fingers, where they all start to just prosper and heal, all except the little finger, which, of course, she doesn't do this because she's the weakling of them. And as the siblings start to bully Littlefinger, Hiroya takes Littlefinger in under his wing and tries to protect her until the other Tomies leave. And once they're alone, Hiroya lets his guard down and admits to Littlefinger that he loves her. At this point, instead of her reciprocating that love, she starts to torment him until she becomes fully healed, and once she's able to go off on her own, she leaves him there to die. So, this segment was just really disturbing because, for one, the zombie Tomies were just really ghastly, and secondly, there was a lot of commentary to it. Like, even though I knew Littlefinger was evil, I actually started to feel sorry for her because of how she was bullied. And then I had to tell myself, well, if it looks like a snake, it's a snake. Then from Hiroya's perspective, it was really hurtful because the thing is he had a lot of esteem issues, and as soon as he let his guard down, he was attacked. And this just makes me think that for some people who have esteem issues, this is perhaps a reason why they won't let their guard down.
One of my favorite chapters was Assassins, and I really like this chapter because it sheds some light onto who or what Tomie is. When Tomie gets killed the first time, she specifically asks Tetsuo not to burn her body, but to bury it. Yet, when another Tomie sprouts from her chest, Tomie 2 specifically asks Tetsuo to burn Tomie 1's body, almost as if she knows something that Tetsuo doesn't know, which we know is that Tomie can come back to life. However, whenever Tetsuo brings Tomie 2 home and asks her what she is, she says she doesn't know. And I don't know if this is the truth or a lie, but I just find it interesting because it seems like Tomie knows that she can do things that aren't normal, but she might not really know what she is.
My next favorite moment is called Waterfall Basin, and this kind of reminded me of the Suicide Forest, but in this scenario, we have a traveling salesman who goes to this quiet mountain village where he's trying to sell parts of Tomie so the residents will plant her. But after he doesn't do too well, he ends up throwing Tomie's remains into a waterfall, where shortly thereafter there becomes a string of suicides at that location. Then one day we have 2 fishermen go out to the waterfall to fish, and this is when they accidentally hook into what they believe is a dead body. So one of the men dives into the water to retrieve the body, and when he doesn't resurface, his friend goes in after him. And this is when his friend discovers, like, all of these Tomies have become rooted into the underwater rock, and they're eating his friend. Now, what I really loved about this segment was the whole idea of what could be under the water's surface has always creeped me out. But also, the Tomies here just appear so ghastly. Like, as they're chowing down on old dude, they look like they're just really being gleeful about it. Also, like, where their torsos are, you see where their bodies split off into these tentacle-like roots that are just kind of grounded into the rocks. And it just really sold me with the imagery and concept.
My final favorite stories are the last 2 chapters of the book, which are Top Model and Old and Ugly. And this is kind of a 2-for-1 because the 2 chapters blend together and add to the complexity of the story. And what happens is Yasuko has watched her little sister grow up and slowly turn into Tomie. Because when her little sister was an infant, she was attacked by a man in black and injected with some of Tomie's DNA. Now we find out that this man in black was a former model named Rio who had become infatuated with Tomie and was ultimately betrayed and disfigured by Tomie, and he wants his revenge. And his goal is to create as many Tomies as he can and keep them safe so he can watch them grow old and die. And whenever he tells Yasuko this, she agrees to protect her sister so that both of them can watch her grow old and die. And I really love when characters do this and they play this long game, and they bide their time until they get their ultimate revenge. And I feel like Rio and Yasuko do in a way, but I think that's just one of the questions that you're left with by the end of the book.
I would like to take this opportunity to admire Tomie because you know what? Even though she might be a homewrecker and she might piss off the ladies left and right, she knows how to keep boys wrapped around her finger. And truth be it, I honestly see her as a symbol of empowerment. And if we were ever to meet in real life, I would gladly make her my hag. Then after I showed her off to all the people I hated and she hopefully would kill, we would go chill at the food court and me and all of my Tomies would have us a good old time. Then we'd come back to my place and we'd have a pillow fight while we listened to baby metal.
For me, the message seemed to comment on how women are perceived in society. Granted, this is coming from a Western perspective, so I'm not sure if that makes a difference. But regardless, I feel like some of the strongest commentary was about the male gaze. We have all these men who pursue Tomie based solely off of her appearance, and when they realize they can't have her, they kill her. It's very much the "if I can't have you, no one can" mentality. I really feel like Ito recognized that when society has a independent and powerful and beautiful woman, they tend to vilify her. So he took the mirror and turned it on society itself, and he took the beautiful, independent, and powerful woman and turned her into a manipulative and vengeful and attention-seeking woman. He created the very monster that society claims these powerful women are. She takes your man, she ruins your life, and she leaves you high and dry when she's done with you. I don't think that my interpretation is the right interpretation or the only one. I think there's many different ways to interpret the story. This is just what I couldn't stop thinking about whenever I was done reading.
Tomie was a fun read, and it did deliver some pretty awesome gore. But even though this book has a lot of body horror in it, it didn't feel as extreme as other Ito mangas like Uzumaki or Gyo. Now, from a commentary stance, we think that maybe Tomie comments on the dangers of vanity. And the reason why we speculate this is because Tomie is an extremely vain character. And when men discover that they can't have her, they end up killing her, and from here she multiplies and regenerates, and she ends up just spreading like a virus, where more men go crazy over her, and more women end up hating her because of her abilities, or they wish they could be her. And on this perspective, I tend to think that Tomie is a very empowered character.
And speaking of character, Tomie is very well developed, but we never really know what she is. And we were left wondering, is she a cosmic being? Is she a succubus? Is she vanity in the flesh? Or exactly what she is?
At the end of the day, Tomie didn't scare me or creep me out, but there were quite a few very unique scenes that I had never seen before in any other book or even movie for that matter. So for the most part, this is a great book if you are just wanting to see some stuff that's going to make you think WTF.
Yeah, it didn't scare me either, but it did creep me out a few times, especially with stories like The Little Boy, and just some of the monsters and creatures that she would turn into after she was cut up. It really kind of disturbed me. But yeah, in that regard, it really did creep me out.
Out of the Ito manga I've read, Tomie is a must-read, so I do recommend this. But if you've never read Ito before, I would suggest reading Uzumaki first. And I say that because Uzumaki feels like it's more tight-knit, and it really shows off the author's ability to be creative and also to build his own little world. Which, don't get me wrong, because Tomie does have a lot of creativity in it, and it has a good storyline. It's just that with Uzumaki, it seems like it's stronger. But yes, at the end of the day, I do highly recommend Tomie.
I recommend Tomie as well. It's a really creative and thought-provoking story. The illustrations are disturbing and beautiful. My only criticism is that some of the chapters can get a little repetitive. almost like wash, rinse, repeat, but it's definitely worth your time.
On to the questions. My first question is, what is a horror manga you would recommend about a character who can't die? My second question is, what did you do for Valentine's Day or Halloween, depending on what you like to call it? Pretty much, Kerry and I, we did this awesome video, and now I'm about to cook for us so we can have our Valentine's Day dinner, and after that we're just going to watch some Netflix or something along those lines, and that's going to be our Valentine's Day. I mean, we really don't want to go out because of COVID and the crowds and all that stuff. Plus, it's like freezing balls down here for a change, and the roads are all icy and everything, so we just don't want to deal with it. Even if we didn't have COVID going on this year, the weather is enough to keep us indoors. Now that we have that covered, it's time to close out the video. But before I do, I would like to say thank you to Lisa G, as well as J.L. Mulvihill, which J.L. Mulvihill is a young adult fantasy steampunk author, and you can find her books available in print, ebook, and audio wherever books are sold. Also, I would like to thank Melody Romeo, which Melody Romeo is a fiction author who specializes in historic fiction as well as fantasy, and her books are available in print and ebook, and of course they are available wherever books are sold. Also, I would like to say thank you to my mom because she recently jumped on this bandwagon as well, so thank you, Mom. And if you're wondering why I'm giving a shout out to these wonderful people, it's because they've had the opportunity to contribute to my Patreon account. And if you would like to contribute as well, there's a link to my Patreon in the description section of this video. And for $5 a month, I'll give you a shout out at the end of my videos, which if you would like for me to tie a specific profession to your name to give that a shout out as well, I'll do that. And for $10 a month, you'll get that same shout out. But on the first of every month, I'll send you over one of my photos, which I do creepy photography on the side. So once you receive that image, you can print it off, do whatever you want with it. It's yours to do what you like with. So if you are able to do that, that's awesome. If not, no sweat. I just hope you return to this channel so we continue to have a good time. And if you would like to hunt me down on social media, links to my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok are all available in the description section of this video. And if you have yet to subscribe to this channel, be sure to subscribe and click that notifications bell. And until we see each other again, I hope you have a great week and sweet nightmares.